Can we do some examples of that?
Absolutely, absolutely.
I think we had that in our thing anyway.
We did.
Sorry.
Perfect, perfect. Are we ready to do that? Let's make sure that we have all of our pieces in there, okay? So, starter kit, pumpkin starter kit. We wanted to make sure that we have,
Soil.
which soil are we going to use? Bulk soil? Okay, we're going to use bulk soil, perfect. And seeds, are we going to do pumpkins?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do pumpkins. And we need to go into check to make sure that we have.
We want some fertilizer.
Okay, great, great, great. We can basically mix and blend however we want. What let's do right here.
And we want some of our flats.
Okay, perfect, perfect. So watch this. What we're going to do right here is I'm just going to do prep. Like, what do we need to grab? Like, literally, we have two separate pieces, okay? We have normal items that we sell. The root beer we want to sell, okay? To build the root beer, if that's your business, you actually have another little step because you have all these little miniature pieces. So almost back end versus front end as far as inventory, okay? So right here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of do like this. Prep. What do we need? Okay, first off, how many of these pumpkin starter kits do we want to create? Let's start with the end product in mind. Like, how many do we want?
10.
Okay, perfect. What is this going to entail? What do we have to grab?
We have to grab the flats to plant seeds in.
Okay, so these flats, and I'm not sure how they were entered. Is this a
They were entered correctly.
Okay, like I'm talking like what's their size and quantity? Like,
Thank you. Okay, there were flats that were 6 pounds to a flat for a big plant, which would be what we're going to do.
okay,
And so they're sold individually. So all we have to do is take the 10 out.
we need 10 flats.
There was
Okay.
just 10 flats
Small
of
and
the
great
large.
and the large.
Okay,
Right?
perfect, perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay.
That's a nice spot in there.
They were entered correctly. Perfect. Okay, so we know we need some bulk soil. How much are these things going to take? Like, as far as like, what do we need? How much bulk soil do we need total? Bulk soil, are we doing that by pounds? 2 pounds each? Okay, so 2 LBSs times 10, right?
Yes.
Okay, and let me put soil on that real quick, just so we know. Okay, what else do we need? We know that we needed some pumpkin seeds. How many packs of pumpkin seeds? I believe that pumpkin seeds are sold per pack.
One.
There's about
One pack.
1,000 seeds per pack. Oh, wait, no, those are big.
P-U-M.
Pumpkin, I like those.
Okay, 1 package of pumpkin seeds. We're skipping on. Okay, what else? What else do we need for this particular one?
Fertilizer, I thought we said we were.
Okay, and the fertilizer.
Could we make that you could pick your own?
What's
But I
that?
guess that would be in a recipe.
Well,
I was gonna say.
Okay, so what we're probably going to need to do is because we're basically grabbing some of these different little pieces of the puzzle. Let's say that we wanted 1 bat guano and 1 manure, and then we're going to end up kind of storing some of that pieces, but we're physically taking some stuff off the shelf, okay? So I'm going to say 1 bat and 1 manure. Is that how you spell manure? I don't even know.
M-U-R-E.
Okay, cool. So now basically we have kind of a little bit of a miniature manufacturing model that's going on, okay? So what let's do is let's actually go start doing this, okay? Now ideally we're probably going to want to put this under our company because it's not owned by another company. So we're going to become the vendor on it, okay? So right under here, under starter kits, if we were to follow that same model, Greenway Products, or I can't remember exactly what it's called. Our vendor is going to be called this. Our category is going to be called starter kits. And then we're going to create this new little guy called pumpkin starter kit, okay? So this is our goal. And then this right here, this end product of 10 is going to be this guy. Does that make sense? How that's going to be called our end goal. And then we're going to go grab raw products from the back end to then build this, okay? Which will basically deduct it from our inventory and eventually give us a cost so that we can actually assign it to our pumpkin starter kit, okay? This
So
is-
Brandon, this is just one step, because what he was talking about is raw ingredients, and then
Okay,
wholesale
so-
products, right?
depending on how many processes you have or what you're doing,
Yeah.
and depending on how deep you want to track this. Like literally, if they wanted to be like sugar,
Yeah.
I'm going to expense it, you know,
Yeah.
or this, I'm going to, like, depending on how you want to do it. If you physically want to count it, like quantity count it, you would bring it in this way. If you're like, you know what, I spent $50 worth of sugar, and I'm going to go physically look, oh, it looks like I'm good. Like,
So when you add that, do you add that into your inventory, and you expense it as your own product, and it could be wholesale, you could just get from wherever.
okay, correct. And so what it does is it kind of comes, the whole thing, the reason that we are here instead of inside of Adilas doing this, you're trying to figure out what's the whole goal. Because as soon as you get into manufacturing, are we going to build this and let it sit? And then we're going to build this and let it sit? And then I'm going to combine those two things that I just built and put them together? Like, it totally depends on the process as far as like where you want it to go. And at some point, you also have to come in, this is another huge key piece of the puzzle. How much energy are you willing to put into this in order to track it to the level you want it? Or you're like this, expense that off, expense that off, expense that off. Eventually, I'm going to just randomly, poof, magically create this thing and then sell it, okay? And then I'm going to have this holding all of my cost of goods. Like, it totally depends on how you want to do it, okay?
Yeah, and you know, it sounds like, you know, I'm more on the sales side of things.
Sure,
so
sure.
I'm just keeping track of bottles sold and
Sure.
stuff like that. But when it comes to the back end side of things, it sounds like they have a lot more data entry.
Well, it depends on how deep you want to go, okay? If you physically want to, yes, go ahead.
Say that my production guy gets motivated and enters it all in once and forgets to do it, you know, until forever, and I run out of a certain amount of root beers. Is it going to allow me to still create that cart, even though that on his end it says that there's no ingredients or anything?
Yes, you could totally do it. Basically, you would start running into a negative quantity, and if you were to go to your usage, it would say, originally the first PO came in at 20 bottles of root beer. Oh my goodness, I sold 20 and 50 and 75 and 35. It keeps track of all of your numbers, but basically it's kind of like, hey, just so you know, I'm probably missing something, but here's the numbers that I have. That's what the system does. It kind of just,
I do have another kind that does it the same way as they actually make product and then enter the product at the back end, which they're kind of updating the system as they kind of go.
Yeah, it's
Instead
not,
of having the system up to date and then work, but there's, you know, like you are, just keep working and chucking along.
yeah.
the system is totally fine that way. The only catch, this is the only catch, okay? So I'm going to switch to a map for just a quick second to show you. If you pulled something in originally so it gets here so you can sell it out, and your quantities are going way negative, if you try to take this thing clear to the balance sheet or the financial accounting level, you have a disconnect because basically your inventory is completely messed up and you don't even know who you've paid for and whatever. So basically what you did is you were just using the bottom portion of the system and it'll let you keep running and running and running. If you wanted to use the whole system as a whole and get clear to the accounting level, you're going to have a problem. And at some point, you need to backfill those pieces.
And again, you know, because he has a customer and a user, it's up to you how you want to pick and choose and how you want to use the system.
Mhm.
If you want to use all of it, use it all. If you want to use that functionality, use that functionality. And it really depends on, you know, what's most important to you. Period.
Correct. That's kind of how it ends up running, if that makes sense. So there are certain ways that you can kind of trick it and whatnot. The piece of the puzzle that you're missing is if you wanted to take it clear to the financial level where it could track everything clear to the balance level, you do need to feed the system in or figure out what your game plan is and feed it accordingly. Okay.
So we've been making cards since August.
Great.
You know, but our accounting on the back end hasn't been keeping up with the cart, so she's essentially going to have to go back through and assign all that cards to payment.
Okay, that's a great question. It's kind of saying, oh my goodness, we're going, and there's possibly some back data that we are missing. And it depends on how far that back data is, but technically the system would allow you to say, you know what, I'm going to draw a line in the sand today, okay?
Okay.
I've got tons of carts that are going forward, tons of carts. Let's update everything so it's good to go right here. So instead of saying, oh my goodness, I have no clue what happened, you kind of do a little bit bigger of a bulk update, if you will, and you flag it and you note it and you're like, hey, we went live on such and such a date. This is to back quantify all of this. And then what it does is it kind of helps feed the system, and we're like, okay, they have $30,000 worth of cost of goods that already went into this, you know, X thousands of dollars that went in here. It's not a perfect one-to-one relationship that you would like, but technically you can feed the system however you need it to feed it. You just have to realize it then shows up that way. So like if I drill down and say, hey, show me my cost of goods, and it only shows one entry, it's going to be a big flag saying, well, duh, looks like they just did a big old, that's where I would put the notes. Hey, here's what I did. Like, talk to the system, tell the story, and it helps out tremendously. But you can technically use it however you want. We are not an accounting system. We don't require that at all. If you want to go to that level, we'll play. But if you don't, keep selling those cards, build them out, get your money in. Like, that's great. We're totally happy. You're basically playing right here. Customers, invoices, and what do they owe you? Customers, invoices, and what do they owe you? Okay? You're not going clear to these other levels. If you want to, you can. But it totally depends on your needs and or what's going on. But Andy, that's what I would say on that. Okay? Great question. Great question. Okay, so we were planning to do a build. Okay? So this one right here, I'm going to kind of put one more little break on it. All these other pieces of the puzzle, we were doing basic POs, basic POs, basic POs. This one right here is going to be called an internal build. Okay? It's kind of special. You have to have permissions, and basically what we're doing is we're robbing from raw goods and then eventually create a finished good, which is going to be our pumpkin starter kits. Okay? So where would I start on this? Does anybody have any ideas? Okay, I'd probably start right here. I need a new PO.
In there as a vendor.
Okay, correct. Okay, so watch this. What we're going to do, while I'm doing this, if you guys have your little cups and plates, why don't you clear it all off? And let's see if you guys can figure out what our object actually looks like as we get done with this thing, okay? So I'm back in the main site. I'm going to go like this. Vendor, green. Okay, what do I have? Greenway products, okay? I'm going to say create a new PO. Now this is special. This is super special. So far we've just been leaving this little guy right here. I'm going to click it and I'm going to say internal build. I'm going to be grabbing and building or mixing, okay? And I'm going to come down and I'm going to say making the pumpkin starter kits. I have no clue how much it's going to be like. I really don't know at all, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and say, yep, got them, add it, okay? So basically at this point you can see that the interface is slightly different. It's kind of like, hey, did you want to go check a recipe? Because you may have already created this, like, say you build it over and over and over again, you could actually create a recipe, so it's like, do that again, do that again, so like it's a shortcut, okay? Basically, we're going to be right here by searching the items. Let's go take a look. We're going to end up eventually with our end product, but let's go add 10 flats first off, okay? So right here, we're going to say FLA. What have I got? Oh, I've got large flats, small flats, and we wanted the 6 count, is that correct? Okay, perfect. We're going to say add it as a basic line item, and I'm pulling out 10. So watch this. This is also a little bit of a trick. Why would I go negative 10? We're pulling, okay? So easy, just right there, boom, add it. So right now, it's already starting to say, hey, just so you know, here's where we're kind of coming into it. Let's go look at what our next item is. Okay, 2 pounds of bulk soil. 2 times 10. Okay, so basically we need 20 pounds of bulk soil for this total piece of the puzzle. Okay, so right up here in the search, I'm going to go bulk. What do I have under bulk? I got bulk soil, I got pine straw, which probably had the word bulk in it, that's why I searched for it, okay? So my bulk soil, I'm going to say add it as a basic line item, and I'm going to come in here, and I'm actually going to say, actually, just for fun, watch this. We can actually do some fun math. If I go advanced, watch this. I can go like this. Hey, what did it totally cost me to do this? And so that would have, sorry, I'm going to hit back again. I don't know how much it totally cost me. I'm going to do a basic. Okay, so we said that we wanted to pull out 20 total pounds of this thing, okay? Negative 20, add it. And this is sold by the pounds, okay? So here's 2 of my items. It's negative and negative, kind of starting to build basically my cost of what's actually happening to the piece of the puzzle. Back to Word, 1 package of pumpkin seeds, no problem. So right here I'm going to search again, What have I got? Acme seeds, I've currently got 500 of them. Boom, I'm going to say add as a basic line item. I'm grabbing one of those guys. Got one of you, add it to my cart, okay? So technically, right now, even before we get going, hopefully you guys are building your objects, but you should have a main, you should have a vendor tie, and you should have 3 line items, okay? Or at least that much.
So essentially, on the quantity, we're using just one packet of seeds for all of the 10 things we're making.
Correct, correct. We're going to physically be like the packet of seeds has a bunch of them in it, but we're basically pillaging it off the shelf so it's no longer available for the front end sales, okay? We grabbed a front end piece that normally we could have sold to a customer, like, oh, I need you for a second. It basically will reduce my inventory, okay? And now I can use it in the back end and I'll physically plant those into the little flower beds.
You're trying to account for the total expense of the end product. Can you essentially take labor out of that specific thing right there?
If you needed to, you can actually add another item and call it labor, which would basically attribute a cost to it. And then it gets a little tricky when you get into labor, but just so that you know,
It's like a certain category.
here's what ends up happening is because eventually you have your person who's doing their time card, and then eventually you pay them, and so you attribute your labor here, but you also attribute it over here in your cost. So you kind of have to figure out, like, okay, do I want to just attribute that cost through payroll, like wages, or do I physically want to say, hey, this needs to be added to this item? Because here's what happens, okay? You want to get your prices here. These are your costs, your building costs. What you physically sell it for, you can mark it up however much you need to. Okay, I also want to it's almost like a phantom cost because you can't record it twice. Does that make sense how you don't want to record that thing twice? It just gets a little bit tricky in that manner, but we're doing great right now, okay? So we've got flats, soil, pumpkins. Let's go take a look what else we need here. Okay, 1 bat manure, 1 bat guano, and 1 manure thing. So right here I'm just going to type in bat. And basically I'm going to say, hey, this looks like it's sold by the ounce. I didn't know that. So how many ounces do we want per thing? Total of 2 ounces total, like for the whole schmear? Okay. Or
times 10, so 20 ounces.
20 ounces, we wanted to do 20 ounces, okay? So negative 20, okay? Because that's coming out as ounces. I didn't know that. It's no problem. We'll say add the line item. So now we have another little one that you should be adding into there for the line item. You have 4 line items now. The next one was bat guano. So right here, manure. What do I have under MA? Manure. And this is actually an each, so this is a whole bag, so we're probably just going to get 1 bag of this, okay? So basically, once again, we're robbing front end to use in the back end. Add as basic line item. Negative 1, we're grabbing 1 full bag. So now if we look down, we have 5 items total, okay? And I have a total cost of $46.60, okay? So now what we want to do is, I don't even know if we actually have the pumpkin starter kit. We may have kind of gone,
I
yes,
have one question.
Santiago.
So we're robbing 1 bag of, what was it?
The manure.
How much weight was that? 25 pounds, right? And we're only going to, we only need X amount of pounds for each.
Guess what?
So we should have set that up as kind of maybe ounces, grams, or.
Well, it kind of depends. What we may do, and this
I mean, if we're
particular,
going to break bags open, we should set it up kind of on a smaller scale, a smaller measurement scale.
But we also are selling it in pounds, so once that is broken, and we do take that 25-pound bag and we use 2 pounds per each, can we take that bag and put it back into the
Inventory?
back into inventory?
Only if you sell it as ounces
it
again.
depends on, are you taking a physical bag and robbing it and saying, as soon as you take a bag and you cut it and you basically just kill that whole bag, unless you're planning on selling it in bulk, and then you're like, okay, cool, I'll just mix it into this other pot and I'll sell bulk manure, okay? But
Or you could create another inventory item or use partial bags and put it back in the system. But, you know, it's, at some point you get diminishing returns.
yeah, and it does
and so-
come to that.
Well, it seems like to me that we could take out the 25-pound bag, use the 5 pounds, and then maybe even reinsert the 20 pounds back into the line item.
Okay, so it kind of depends on If I say a bag, and I'm actually some sort of a nursery, I am not going to have a bag on my shelf that has been partially robbed, okay?
Okay.
If I said I
So
took it, I kind of took it, just because of the way we have it broken up right now, okay? And then in your particular thing, you're like, I could even take this and break it into a. Look, let's do this just
Wait,
for.
what, no, I mean, like, it seems like you would just leave it out there and then you would remove it off of the next one you made.
Why wouldn't you just build more kits?
You totally could build more kits, okay?
Instead of just pumpkin, you can just add, tomatoes. or-
Yeah. Basically,
Yeah.
go through the whole thing. Basically, there's tons of ways you can do it, okay? You could even buy bags and have bags, and then have a whole other little product that's called bulk. You basically say, I'm going to take one bag, but it's going to create 25 of this that I can sell by the pound, okay? So one, this is still an internal build. You're taking a physical product, and you're doing something, and you're selling it out at something else. That's also internal building, okay? They're all related.